Welcome back. All right, so there's a couple ways to look at this. One, it is still a tied series, right? So we've got a tied series headed back to Toronto. Now it's the best 2 out of 3, and games 5 and 7 would be in Toronto. The other way to look at this is I don't think Tampa Bay has played great games yet. They're kind of overdue for one, so there's reason to be afraid if you're a Toronto fan. I get it. There's also reason to be confident if you're a Toronto fan. But what's amazing to me with this series is how quickly we've seen it break one way or the other. You know, Toronto, big win in Game 1. Tampa Bay, big win in Game 2. Game 3, big win for Toronto. Game 4, here we are, Tampa Bay bouncing back. So that means we should be seeing Toronto bounce back on Tuesday, right? So it was Shalgren. Shalgren eventually gets into this. We'll talk about it. Campbell versus Vasilevsky in this one. And Hall is guilty of a turnover that ends up in the back of their net. It's Stamkos from Kucherov and Hedman at 1 minute. And for Tampa Bay, that's the first goal they've had from Stamkos in the playoffs, I do believe. And they were 19-9 when he scores a goal in playoffs. Obviously not this year, that's overall. And so that's definitely telling you this doesn't bode well for the Toronto Maple Leafs, right? The Bolts look for another. And the crowd was really noisy in this one. Nylander nearly ties it, and then Belmar makes sure it's not tied. He scores the second of the game for the Bolts from Perry and McDonough at 5:20. So I thought on that one, I thought the defense was a little passive, poor defense on that one, and I was kind of surprised that Sheldon Keefe didn't call a timeout there. I thought this was a time, if you're going to call a timeout during the game to try to change things at all, I thought that was the time. The Bolts press for more. The shots are 4-1 at 7 minutes. Toronto just basically, there's two ways to look at this. Again, Tampa Bay comes out focused, ready, knowing how desperate this is. Toronto, kind of flat, not quite in it. And at 7:58, they really weren't in it. Maroon scores his first of the playoffs from Killorn and Sergachev. So it's 3-0. We're not 8 minutes into the game. And again, no timeout. I'm really surprised. So that was scored on a net drive, and then it was a rebound where Maroon scores. So really strong play by Tampa. The defense for Toronto, a little suspect. The Bolts then get a power play. They were 4 for 15 in the series coming into this one. They would have a lot of power plays. I don't think it influenced the outcome of this game. They just had a lot of power plays. So I felt like the Leafs had to kill this, right? So Hall deflects a chance out. Point was denied and close. Stamkos blasts one wide. It is killed off. So again, if you're Toronto, you're trying to get something positive to happen here, right? So there were 2 shots allowed on that, meaning that the Bolts were now up to 8 shots. Toronto was still stuck on 1. Hagel has a net feed this block. The Bolts press with 9 minutes left. Things get pushy after a hold by Vasilevsky. Earlier in the series, we saw a lot of fisticuff stuff. Not as much in this one, although by the end of this game, it felt like things were getting kind of testy again. It is hard to predict what's going to happen in the next game. I would not be surprised if there's a couple of fights in the next game. I would expect Simmons to be back in the next game. I would expect, at the very least, some kind of sandpaper in the lineup for Toronto, because again, it feels like they need to adjust to what's going on in this series. So Riley has a shot saved as the Leafs press again. The Leafs were playing better, but they're down by 3. 2:45 left. The Leafs get a power play. Their power play was 2 for 15 in the series coming into this one. Marner has a shot that's blocked. Nylander was denied. The Bolts do kill it off. They allow 2 shots on that power play. Vasilevsky saves on Kasha after that's done. And with 26.4 seconds left, the Bolts with a 2-on-1 would have led to a power play, but it evens out. It's a 4-on-4. Both coaches disagree with the penalties, which means it's probably right. Mikheyev has a rush chance that's saved. After the first period, it's 3-0 for Toronto, or Tampa Bay against Toronto. So it's really important that Toronto has a good start to the second period. Riley defends a 2-on-1 early in the second. Point goes beast mode, misses high on that one. That one probably should have gone in. Colton has a net feed that's blocked, and then it comes back out to center ice. He brings it back in, and he scores. At 3:17, it's Colton from Hagel and Foote. So Brandon Hagel seems to be picking up his game. He was also involved in some scrumminess going on late in the game. So, yeah, Hagel's getting involved. And it was a nice fast break, beat Campbell over the glove. Cirelli exited after a collision with Riley. I think he came back briefly to test it out. We'll see whether or not he plays in the next game. The Bolts get a power play. Then there's a delay of game 9 seconds later, so that means 1 minute and 51 seconds of 5-on-3. Stamkos has a shot that's blocked. It's cleared out, but Perry would score 5-on-3 from Kucherov and Point at 5:25. So it is 5-0 for the Tampa Bay Lightning. Then we get a high stick. So it's 15 seconds of 5-on-3 for the Bolts. Now, Källgren has been ready to come in. It looked like they were waiting until it was evened up, right? They didn't want to throw him in on a 5-on-3. They didn't want to throw him in when it's a 5-on-4. So they were waiting for it to be 5-on-5 again, but it's a 4-minute penalty. So it's going to be a while, right? Point has a shot that's saved and held. Then there's a shorthanded 2-on-1 that draws a Bolts penalty. Becomes a 4-on-4. Källgren ends up going in. And there is no good time to put Källgren in the net here. Maroon's denied. Everything's killed off there. Giordano has a shot that's saved. Point fires wide on a rush. 5:46 left. The Bolts get another power play, which turns into 1 minute and 23 seconds of 4-on-4. Kerfoot has a shot that's blocked. The Bolts clear it out. There's a shorthanded chance for Paul. That draws another Bolts power play. Now, technically, it was 1 second of 4-on-4 first. I don't think anybody's going to care that I just wrote that it drew a power play. We just wrote up here, what a mess. This is the 7th power play for Tampa Bay. There's 3 minutes and 8 seconds left in the second period. So, while the power play only hits once, it does throw Toronto out of its rhythm. It does mean there are players who are not getting to play because they don't play special teams, right? So Hedman has a blasted save, good cycle, but the Leafs kill it off. So we're going to the third period. It's 5-0. I've already wrote series tied 2-2 at this point. I can't see Tampa Bay blowing a 5-goal lead in the third period. Palat has a rush chance that deflects out. The Leafs line shuffling, as you are going to want to do when you're down by 5. Stamkos is denied on a cross-ice chance. Things get pushy after a hole by Vasilevsky, which was initiated by the Bolts there. Leafs come out with their third power play, and they do score on it. Nylander breaks the shutout from Matthews and Riley at 2:27. He tips that one top shelf. Giordano with a net feed. That was held. The Leafs have some momentum. Hedman blasts one wide. The Leafs clear it out. The Bolts get a power play. We get a shorthanded 2-on-1 that Sergachev breaks up. He enjoyed that so much that he broke up another opportunity. Mikheyev on both opportunities as well. So that's killed off. The shots are 6-4 for Toronto halfway through the third period. Paul fires high in a rush. We get 2 minutes of 4-on-4. Hedman has a chance that's held. Källgren, I thought, played well. Nylander then gets a goal from Tavares. At 12:01, he scores on a rush. It's the second goal of the game. Nylander does not react to either of these goals because they're down 5-2. He's not celebrating these goals. Engvall tries to add another. They pull the goaltender with 5:55 left, with 5:37 left. Hedman's guilty of icing, so we'll see what happens. Well, Palat ends up getting the empty netter at 14:40. Nylander kind of bobbles it at the blue line. It comes out. There's some miscommunication between the Maple Leafs, and so Palat ends up getting the empty net as a result. Now the Leafs do answer. It's Muzzin from Brody and Blackwell at 15:41. He wires that one top shelf. So they pull the goaltender again after they set up in the Tampa Bay zone. They're down by 3 still. 3:38 left. Bolts guilty of icing. Point and Riley, who were racing for that icing. Point wasn't happy when it was called icing. He thought he beat it. He and Riley start jousting. So there's some dislike going on. There was no penalties there. The question was asked by Craig Simpson about why they weren't calling penalties there. I think the officials just wanted this game done and to go home. I think they told him just knock it off. We're just going to finish this and get it done. So Matthews has a shot that's blocked, and then Tampa Bay gets their second empty net goal of the game. It's Colton from Hagel and McDonough at 17:44. 31 seconds left. There's some scrumminess that breaks out. There's some pushing and shoving and punching and all that. So the game ends up kind of snippy at the end. Your final score is 7-3 for Tampa. These teams are tired of each other. We're over halfway through the series now, and nothing's been solved. It is a 2-2 series tie. Shots in this one are 10 apiece in the first, 9-4 Tampa in the second, and then in the third, Toronto actually outshoots them 11-8. Final shots are 27-25 for Tampa. Power plays, Toronto 1 for 3, Tampa 1 for 8. Hits 40-32 for Toronto. Campbell saves 11 out of 16. Källgren saves all 10 shots. If anybody's going to ask, no, Campbell plays the next game. He has to. Vasilevsky saves 22 out of 25. And this is part of what scares me. I don't think Vasilevsky's had a really great game yet. I think Vasilevsky's looked human throughout this series. It's a 2-2 series tie. I feel like Vasilevsky's overdue for a really good game. And so we'll see whether or not that might happen in Game 5, We'll see if Toronto bounces back, and if Toronto ends up getting 5+ goals and we're coming back to Tampa with them playing for their lives. But when Game 6 happens, one team is going to be playing for their playoff lives. Will it be Toronto or Tampa that's doing it? Let me know your thoughts in the comments section below as always. If you're a Toronto fan, do you still believe this is their series? Again, it's best 2 out of 3 now, and 2 of those 3 games would be in Toronto. Benefit? Drawback? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below as always. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.